that I knew what a shadow was, right? I was like, okay, it gets dark every day, fine, but this is for Ella. And all of a sudden, that eclipse became for me. I could feel celestial mechanics happening with my whole body in a way that there's no other experience on earth that gives you that takes the textbook knowledge that you have and puts you in alignment with these celestial bodies. And so I forgot all about Ella standing over there.
For a minute. Yeah, I was like, and then I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. And before I knew it was over, it was sad. This is crazy. This is so nuts.
I'm Leticia Ferrer.
And I'm Chris Alexander.
And this is Totality Talks, the solar eclipse podcast.
It just took my breath away, the whole thing. It's really cool that you can see the corona and you see the sun kind of spewing out from behind the moon. It literally took our breath away.
Welcome back to Totality Talks. In this episode, we chat with the authors of the new book, The Eclipse Effect: How to Seize Extraordinary Moments to Build Strong Communities. We welcome back from the UK, Jamie Carter. He's the foremost solar eclipse journalist, regular contributor to Forbes.com, Space.com, and editor of WhenIsTheNextEclipse.com. He co-chairs the book with Debra Ross. From Rochester, New York, she is publisher and CEO of KidsOutandAbout.com. She has also served as co-chair of the American Astronomical Society's Solar Eclipse Task Force. Debra is an entrepreneur and advocate for community engagement, independent learning, and curiosity-driven exploration. We hope you enjoy our chat with Jamie and Debra. All right. Welcome, Jamie, Debra, Leticia. This is the first time we've ever tried to record video and do our podcast. We're starting to kind of maneuver into that, less editing and just fire and go. And so we'll see how it goes. But
we will do our best to present you with great raw material.
Yes, we can edit out the curse words and such.
Sure. The curse words that you always get when talking about total solar eclipses, if in fact your last eclipse was cloudy, which it was for me and Jamie.
Good morning. We've got Debra and Jamie. Jamie's in the UK. Where are you at right now, Debra?
I'm in Rochester, New York.
In New York. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's go around and give us a little bit about your background.
Wait, I'm gonna stop. Okay. I want to do a proper introduction here because Jamie is the solar eclipse journalist. He publishes, I'm seeing him all the time in Forbes, Space.com, Wall Street Journal, Sky and Telescope. He's the go-to guy for anything solar eclipse, partial, anything. And then Debra took on the role of being a co-chair of the American Astronomical Society Solar Eclipse Task Force.
Yes.
Which was a lot of work. I know. I was just a participant. So
in one of the sessions, right? You were in, we met, Leticia, at the last session that we had in person in September of 2023. So only really just about 6 months and change before the 2024 eclipse. And then, of course, right before the 2023 annular eclipse.
So that was San Antonio, 23?
Yeah.
I was there too.
Yeah, Jamie was there too. We had brought Jamie because one of the most important things. So the American Astronomical Society's Solar Eclipse Task Force was actually formed back somewhere, like the idea started in like 2012, and it came into being in about 2014 in a formal way as a means to prepare the country for the 2017 Great North American Eclipse. And so at the time, of course, it was all of the astronomers and astrophysicists from the AAS who were that sort of core task force. And their goal was the same the whole time through, to help as many people as possible experience the upcoming eclipses safely, meaningfully, and scientifically, to understand sort of the fabric of what was happening. So to hook people on that upcoming exciting awe experience and then engage with the science in a non-textbook kind of way. And so then Angela Speck and Rick Feinberg were sort of the backbones of that. At the time, Rick was the AAS's press information officer, and he became the project manager of the AAS task force. And Angela was the chair throughout. She is currently in physics and astronomy at UT San Antonio. And her mission is both science and outreach. So she was really, two of them were just this amazing duo in the whole enterprise.
They definitely were. They definitely were.
You should get those guys on. Those two.
We're going to.
We had Rick on.
We had Rick?
Had Rick on, and it was right after it was right after the Solar Eclipse Task Force in San Antonio, and he gave us a great episode. It's fantastic.
Rick was single-handedly the guy with his finger in the dike, saving the country, actually literally from fraudulent glasses flooding the market.
Yes.
And he took this project on for 2017 and kept it for 2024, essentially as the interface between all of the manufacturers and the testing labs to validate which manufacturers had in fact submitted their glasses for the rigorous testing required, the ISO certification. And there was, before 2017, there was a flood of fraudulent glasses on the market. And then we had thought that actually Rick, you can't even imagine how much work this was, because he had people giving him bribes, trying to bribe him to be on this approved list. It was the single most accessed page in AAS history on the website, the list of approved, verified manufacturers and distributors. But it was far too much information for work for one man to do, but he did it anyway.
He did it.
Even as he was boarding the ship out of Mazatlan for the 2024 eclipse, he was responding. People were trying to be on that list and high up on that list because it made the difference, of course. But there was actually a flood of fraudulent glasses right before the 2024 eclipse also. And Rick was the guy, North America doesn't know that it has Rick Feinberg to thank for that.
Yeah, just because
it does.
It does now.
It does now. Because it says NASA
yes,
on it
thank
doesn't
you.
mean that it's
Thanks to you guys.
Safe.
Yeah.
And NASA, in fact, did not approve anything. That NASA was not involved in the approval at all. But people were saying NASA approved glasses, and they'd stamp it right on there. And there were a lot of disappointed people, even communities who had purchased lots of these things. And for us to tell the communities, those are not approved. Those may not be safe. You actually can't distribute them. Not a lot of people were not happy with us,
and Rick's in our book quite a lot, right? Rick is a pivotal person in our book in a way, and he just has so much precision, which is so rare now. You can just rely on him for the exact information you need to safely watch an eclipse. So his advice, as a journalist, his advice and his quotes were just so precise and so useful.
He's a master.
Yeah, a dying breed completely.
I guess when your first job is at the Viking landing in mission control, you have a great background. So that gets us to basically the first question, which is, how did you two first meet and also decide to write The Eclipse Effect together?
I was doing a lot of research about the eclipse. Obviously, this eclipse went over in April 2024. It went over so many communities and cities that I was quite alive to the fact that there was a huge audience out there for information. Having seen what happened in 2017, there was a huge spike in interest. And this one was even bigger. There were even more people being visited by the path. So I did a lot of research, reached out as much as I could into communities. And I got to a certain point where I kept hearing Deb's name quite a lot. I heard her name 3 or 4 times from people. When you interview someone, you'll often hear, oh, you should speak to so-and-so. And sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. But I heard her name a bunch of times. So I was also aware Rochester was doing a lot of work on this eclipse. So that's kind of how Deb came into my world.
Yeah, and I came into this world via a very strange sort of trip. I was a complete eclipse skeptic before 2017. Really? What my real job actually is that I'm publisher of a web network called kidsoutandabout.com, which is all over North America, which helps communities be visible to themselves, helps make all family activities and resources, compiles it all in one place, and organizations basically can post to our calendar and to our resource lists. And I started that in 2001 in Rochester, and then it gradually spread over the country and in Canada also. And so but of course I live in Rochester, so I know everybody in Rochester who's doing things. And in 2012, in fact, my daughter, who was then 11 years old, Alyssa, you guys would have met her at the 2023 event in San Antonio, because she was the videographer, who now like 22 years old, right at the time. But she was 11 in 2012, and she came home from a middle school astronomy course at the Strasbourg Planetarium here in Rochester and said, "Mom, in 5 years, I will be 16, and you and I are going to take a road trip to Missouri." And I said, "That's lovely, Ella. Sure." Because what child plans for something 5 years in advance like that? But what she was referring to, of course, was the 2017 eclipse. And she held on to that the whole time. And I was glad to go just as a sort of a mother-daughter science trip when she was 16 and she could indeed drive. And we did indeed drive out to Missouri. I remained a skeptic right up until the beginning of the partial, right? Until we had first contact. And at that, I knew what a shadow was, right? I was like, okay, it gets dark every day, fine, but this is for Ella. And all of a sudden, that eclipse became for me. I could feel celestial mechanics happening with my whole body in a way that there's no other experience on Earth that gives you, that takes the textbook knowledge that you have and puts you in alignment with these celestial bodies. And so I forgot all about Ella standing over there. This was a transformative experience. And again, fortunately, we had a sunny day eclipse out in Missouri in 2017. And then the task force formed in my head for Rochester on the way home, because I knew 7 years in advance later, we would be in that path and Rochester needed to be prepared. And I figured I was the natural person, given that I'm the Rochester girl and I know everybody. And so came home and immediately started organizing, and everybody thought we were crazy. 7 years. But yeah, it turned out to be providential, because we were our task force was way formed and active before the pandemic. And so and I think Jamie will attest to this, we were the most prepared region for the 2024 eclipse, but then got involved nationally in 2019. And then in 2022, Rick and Angela asked me to co-chair the AAS task force to help other communities prepare with the same level of organization and some of the same resources, teach them to do it as Rochester had. So I brought in lots and lots of other communities. A lot of them were already familiar to us through the Kids Out and About network. So that was a natural thing. And so that was useful. And here we are today. But Jamie, I don't know which one of us had the idea that this needed to be a book first. I'm not sure.
It was you.
But I got to love working with Jamie. Maybe it was me, actually, now that I think of it. We realized, we work so solitary. Jamie writes and has done it for all these years, and I'm a business owner, but we got along great. And we discovered that we liked writing together when we're not used to that.
That's awesome. Awesome. And it comes out in December 2nd?
December 9th. It's Post Hill Press. So yes, The Eclipse Effect, How to Seize Extraordinary Moments to Build Strong Communities. And
I've done the pre-order. So
thank you.
I should be on the count.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic.
You can get it from all major online places. And yes, so order your copy. We appreciate that. We definitely do. But this isn't fundamentally a book for people who are interested in eclipse organizing. Right. Although didn't Sevar from Iceland tell us that he found it really, we sent him a copy, of course, because the Iceland eclipse is in 2026. And he's the Rick Feinberg of Iceland and more even.
It goes further, actually. He was telling me the other day, this is a guy called Sava Helgi Bragason in Iceland who's helping to organise the eclipse next August in Iceland on his own, I think, pretty much. Maybe with a friend or two. He's actually just come back from a conference for the 27 eclipse. So all of those countries in North Africa who were involved So they've all got our book as well now. I haven't told you that yet, Deb. But
oh, good.
They're all into our book as well. So hopefully it will help some people in some unexpected places.
Marvelous. But fundamentally, this is a business and community leadership book with the principles of how to do the thing that Eclipse organizers had to do, which is to pull together a group of people who would not ordinarily work with each other, who wouldn't even know each other, to pull them together to work really hard for no money for something happening in the future. And in our case, the Eclipse case, for 3 minutes and 38 seconds far in the future, which is why people thought initially we were crazy.
I do want to correct you there, and spend their own money. Not work for, spend their own money. I was one of those people here in Texas. I spent way too much, but
no, me too.
I got to see so many of my friends are just like, now I understand you now. They now understand me chasing all these other eclipses. So they understand. But yes, the organizers, usually it's an investment in your own community.
It is. As an organizer, like you don't want things to happen only if a committee says so. So one of the things that I did, our first meeting back post-pandemic was an in-person meeting. And I knew that we needed to get people feeling the identity as the Eclipse people, right? Because that was going to help be the fuel to carry them through. And so what I did was I made mugs. And I don't know, maybe reverse there, but basically this says official stakeholder mug. Sunny, so 2024, where will you be on April 8th of 2024? Sunny Rochester, New York, the city that made light fun. Now, this is a goofy mug. If I had waited to see if somebody would fund this, I would have waited a long time and it would have been ruled by committee and it wouldn't have been as goofy as this. So I bought 72 mugs. And they are now collector's item mugs because you only got one. And I put a little stake in it with a little flag that said 2024, a stakeholder mug. But I could do that because I was spending my own money, to your point, Leticia.
Right.
And it worked. People prize these things because they were those crazy Eclipse people. And we validated the value of them being in this group. And that's one of the principles that we saw replicated over and over throughout the country. And it became, you can abstract that to help cultivate an identity that's fun among the people that you're looking to attract into whatever your effort is. Name it so that they feel not just special, but they have this kind of it helps fuel their emotional fortitude for this effort. So that is a principle that's translatable to everybody who's trying to do a parallel kind of thing, a hard thing, especially where you need to work with lots of people. And so that was, we saw these types of things so replicated. And the stories are so fun and interesting that we thought that the book would write itself. Ow. That's not true. The book didn't really write itself. We wrote the book and it was hard work. But
when did you start it?
Had this huge Rolodex of stories from all of his work as a journalist. And so the people we knew, like their stories illustrating these principles, that was the easy part.
We started talking about the book in, I want to say about June or July after the eclipse, so last year. And we talked about it a lot, didn't we? We planned it, we replanned it. We were trying to decide whether we could write a book or not. In the end, we could have probably written a much bigger book. But probably August, we wrote it probably August to December. Something like that, August to November, December. Yeah, didn't take long, actually, once we got into it. But at this point, we should probably shout out to Dr. Kate Russo, because I know you've had her on a few times.
Yes.
I did a long interview with her, didn't you? She's a huge inspiration for both of us. I think I've known Kate for a long time and slowly watched her go into community organisation specifically for eclipses, and she's done some incredible work. Yeah, I know that was hugely influential to Deb and Rochester and many other communities as well.
Many other communities.
And she's in this book a lot.
Yeah. She's done so much work.
Yeah.
And her principles, like I think that she hasn't specifically herself applied her principles to communities beyond eclipses. And so we felt that we could do that in this book. The book, you get to meet these characters and you care about the characters. At least that was part of our a way of bringing people through the book. And even the people who are extreme sort of business principle, theoretical people who I've given it to for feedback, they say it's all about the stories, that the principles sort of slide in there and that's nice, but they're reading it for the stories. And like Jamie's more the storyteller, I'm more the theoretician. So his story hanging on my skeleton is generally how we wrote it. We also wrote it as a love letter to the Eclipse community. Because one of the things that happens with people who get things done, and I know all of your listeners are people who get things done, who make things happen in the world, because they are those types of people, they are typically on to the next thing. And what they've done kind of fades into the past. It's there, but it's not as real. And so what we wanted to do was to make this invisible thing that's now really invisible because it's in the past. We wanted to make that real and concrete and a place where they could see that their story and their efforts mattered and see them in context. And so it does actually read that way too. So if you're an Eclipse community person, you see this story of what you and others like you accomplished, and it makes it not really in the past, and it makes it relevant beyond what you knew it was relevant for. And I think that's why that everybody who's affiliated with Eclipses will appreciate it on that level. And people who aren't are really reading it for the stories and getting value from those kind of actions. And you leave with a set of actual strategies for doing it yourself, no matter what the context.
And that's going to be, I'm looking forward to reading it. I really am. Because there's other things that I do outside of eclipses. We have a 28-month gap right now. I have to do something else.
And that's the question. It's what do we do during that break, and how do we?
I just write about eclipses. It's easy.
What's the answer?
I just write more about eclipses.
Write books about eclipses in 28-month gap. Yeah. So on that, can you give us a math of why we have a 28-month gap in this time? And does that happen periodically every 11 years? Or, what is the cyclical aspect of why we're having a 28-month gap in something that's usually 12 to 18 months on average?
12 to 18 months is just an average, and it's a meaningless statement, no offense. This is all about the Saros cycle and other cycles going on, which are these kind of long-term. The Saros cycle is 18 years, over 18 years. And so each moon shadow is repeated every 18 years. So you have a set of 15 or so central eclipses that keep repeating. So you'll find that the gap we have now, we also had 18 years ago. But it changes subtly over time. So that's a very general way of saying, I don't know, just go and have a look.
It's more related to the 18-year Saros cycle than most related to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll do some research now if you want, and I can find out you a more definitive answer. But these are big cycles, too big for us mere humans to get a grip on, really.
Cool.
It is, now that you mentioned it, because the last one of this Saros for the next one that's coming up, the 2026, was actually 2008. And the one before that was 2006. So there was another big gap before
there you
that.
Go.
18 years ago.
One in Libya, one in China. Yeah. There you go. So is that repeating? And that will be repeated in 18 years as well.
Excellent.
So good. I have a chance to catch up financially again. That's what I used the 28 months for.
Yeah, because those bills for the next two are coming in already.
Are they?
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and go there real quick. So 2026, August 12th, 2026. Where do you play? Jamie, I think you're leading a tour or something, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got a new job with the New Scientist magazine, which is a science magazine in the UK, possibly in the US as well.
Yes, and, I've read it. I used to subscribe. I need to resubscribe.
Yeah, great magazine. So they've given me the job of helping out on 3 trips in a row, starting in Greenland next year. The following year will be in Luxor in Egypt, and then the year after will be in Western Australia. So yeah, dead excited about all 3 of those.
And you, Debra?
And for 26, I'm not sure. Hoping I get an invite from Sevar to be in Iceland. But for 2027, I'm going to be on a cruise in the Mediterranean.
Nice.
So with some astronomy friends. This is a group that bonded incredibly in our work, right? When you tend to do a whole, in part, it's explained by trauma bonding. I think we could ask Dr. Kate to see what she has to say about that. We weren't like simply bonded by awe. I know that because we were so in the trenches. But when you're in the trenches with people, you have that natural bond. And so you want the good parts of that to keep going and going. And so we've gone to lengths to do that. In fact, with the AAS, our NSF funding doesn't actually run out until June of 2026. And because we have created such value in this community, we actually will likely be going and presenting at the AAS meeting in Phoenix in January. And there are some other, because we have some funding left, there's so much packed value that has to do with science outreach and astronomy outreach that we can still like run some seminars that will teach other divisions of science or even but just general astronomy the lessons that we learned about public outreach and strategies and tips and tricks. The fact that we have this little bit of extra funding means that we can spread the word that way. But fundamentally, I'll be honest with you, we're doing that because we like each other, because they're worthwhile people to spend time with. And everybody's going to be friends for forever. And so we'll be able to experience these eclipses together and let somebody else do the organizing.
Yes. My next one is going to be a self-organized tour. I actually went to Spain this year to look at sites. And I'm going to be between Saragossa and Teruel. I found a nice road that we can go up and down depending on the weather because the rain in Spain does fall mainly on the plain. I did get to see a few sunsets at the right time with checking with but I definitely have to have that ability to move.
So you were there on the day of?
I did it. Yeah, I did it on the August 10th to August 12th time frame.
Perfect.
So
impressive.
I went there and did that this year. So I've got my little hotel, which I'm not going to announce until I get everything settled.
Smart. Yeah.
But I got a hotel with air conditioning. That was the hard thing, though, was finding a place with air conditioning. I could get an Airbnb all the time, but there's no air conditioning. They don't usually have it there.
Yeah.
They usually go out of the country. Huh?
Yeah. We're made of stronger stuff in Europe. We don't bother with air conditioning.
I know. I'm from Texas. We have air conditioning. Yeah.
Actually, Spain's a bit different. Spain is quite an unpleasant place in summer. So good luck with that. I'll be in Greenland shivering.
Yeah. So I'm inviting friends and family to join me.
Wow. Fantastic research. I can't believe you went all the way out there just to check
I'm going to write it up. I'll write it up. I haven't finished locking things down, but I'll be writing it up and sharing it with everybody soon.
What about you, Chris? Where are you going?
So I'm going out to Spain. And a pretty quick trip is the plan. Going to go through Astro Trails. They have so many different itineraries. I'm going on the easiest, cheapest one. It's the Sunshine Beaches one itinerary. Nice. And we just zip into the beach, and then they put us in a van and take us up to Sigüenza, I believe, and that's where we'll watch we'll observe.
Oh, you'll be in the castle. You'll be in Sigüenza Castle for the yeah. Fantastic.
If they let us in, I think it's a pretty solid plan.
I hope Americans are welcome.
So it seems like a lot of people are going down south, but there's a whole lot of people heading up north and west into Iceland and Greenland. So, kind of heading towards that maximum eclipse high above the sky. So are you on a boat, Jamie? What are y'all's plans?
Yeah, I'm on a cruise ship leaving from Iceland. We're going to go up to the fjords of Greenland in eastern Greenland for about 10 days, a bit more than that. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of lectures on solar eclipses, of course. And we've got a lot of science experts on there covering off everything from global warming and climate change to polar bears and the Arctic and everything. So yeah, it's going to be a great trip.
It sounds wonderful. I was wanting to do that, but the price stopped me there. That's why I picked Spain.
Yeah. It's going to be much higher in the sky from where we are. It's going to take place a lot earlier in the day, so it won't be quite so tricky to find a good place to watch. There's going to be a bunch of cruise ships up there, actually. Lots of people I've been talking to, lots of people, mutual friends. Tyler Norgren, you know him. He's in our book a lot. Yes. Michael Zeiler, he's also in our book. They're both on cruise ships, different cruise ships to me. But yeah, there's going to be a bunch of us floating around there.
Yeah, and Tyler did the cover of your book too, didn't he?
He did. Well, we're both massive fans of Tyler.
We all are.
So
we all are.
There, we can just put that right up there.
I've got pictures of several eclipses in my hallway.
I'm going to show you. I have a whole wall
There's a Rochester
of
one
Tyler in my office right there. Those are all, we got Tyler here in Western New York. We got him to do lots of different ones for our different communities. And when his art was acquired by the Smithsonian, so I knew that his 2017 art had been acquired by the Smithsonian for its permanent collection. So he was part of my evil plan for Western New York and Rochester to make this the area that people remember when they think back about the 2024 eclipse. And so part of that was getting community, different organizations and regional tourism places to get him to do posters for them. So you'll see this wonderful Tyler Nordgren cluster there. And then indeed, his 2024 artwork was also acquired by the Smithsonian. This was, as you are designing any kind of effort, you want to think about the legacy of it. And we have a whole chapter in the Eclipse Effect about legacy. And so art is important because art is permanent for that. We should probably actually define what the eclipse effect is, right? Because it's a whole new concept that we noticed and thought deserved a name.
And you just stepped into the next question.
Right? Is that the next question?
That's the next question.
Okay. So the eclipse effect is a phenomenon that occurs when a catalyst, it can be an extraordinarily positive catalyst like an eclipse, or a man-made nice catalyst like your grandparents having their anniversary, or it can be a negative catalyst like a sudden flood, or negative man-made catalyst like all of your funding is suddenly pulled. Something that enters your universe that causes a small group of visionary people to seize that for its momentum, to pull together that community to properly manage it. And properly managed, and it will enable the connections in that community to last beyond the initial catalyst, beyond the reason for the initial catalyst. And that whole arc is what we're calling the eclipse effect, where what lasts are those permanent community connections. And so that's the proper managing of it is the kind of crucial point that we learned so much from observing all of these different communities and how they managed well, or the lessons that they learned in not managing well. And so those strategies then are in the book with the stories as illustration. But we'd love it if the eclipse effect, if people started to have that as a packaged concept, and that'll help them tune their radar for all kinds of catalysts that they can use to pull together a group of people. We're living in a time where people feel decreased agency to get things done.
Yes.
And part of the message of this book is, no, you actually have lots of agency. You just need strategy. And so a strategy of tuning yourself to notice these gifts from the universe that you can leverage to pull people together. That is that we want, what we really want people to take away from this. And so please start using the eclipse effect as a concept, and that would be your gift to us. So thanks.
Okay.
The eclipse effect appealed to me because, like you two, I'm part of the eclipse chasing community, but we're guilty of sometimes appearing in countries for a couple of days and then leaving again and just taking out of an eclipse what we want, which maybe is just a photograph for some people. But there's so many aspects to an eclipse, and you can get way more out of it, which is what I was looking at when I was researching the 24 eclipse. All kinds of plans were going on. Deb more than most probably, but just America in general there were some people with so much passion getting things organized way in advance. And let's be honest, most people think about eclipse maybe the day before or 2 days before they will read an article. Yeah. This was a good opportunity for me to see an eclipse and write about an eclipse on a much more long-term level and much more in depth as well, with a whole new dimension, one I hadn't really thought of before, perhaps. So that's probably what got me involved.
Do you want to share one of your favorite stories out of the book? Give people a taste of what the book has in it?
Let's see.
So many.
There are so many. So the structure that we chose was we open each chapter with a story that sort of launches you into the concept of the chapter. Okay, so I can do one with a visual. Given that you are now a visual podcast, let me just grab my visual, and I'll be right back here. It's right over here. Okay. Yes, my. Can you see this forwards or backwards?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I say it. We say it the right way, but pull it a little bit more in the camera.
Okay. So this is a picture book. Now, Genesee County is a county to the southwest of Rochester. They're in our area here in Western New York. And they decided that their tagline was Genesee the Eclipse, because they were right there, smack in the middle of the path of totality. And a brilliant tourism manager named Kelly Rapone, again, seized the momentum, and they worked with a PR firm. They wanted to be really creative about getting the community and especially kids involved in and understanding the eclipse. And so what they ended up doing was creating this children's book, Jenny Sees the Eclipse. It's a fundamentally agricultural community. And so they used Jenny, the cow, and it's a lovely picture book that's, of course, that people now have it forever. But the idea is that, and we all felt this way, I got to say, Jenny solely among the other barnyard animals she knew what was going to happen. And so she had her glasses together. But everybody else was skeptical. And she says, no, you got to come out here and see totality. They all thought it was bedtime because it was dark, right? The animals all went. And so she explains the eclipse, and then they all go out and experience totality together. And like these wonderful illustrations, I just love them so much. And then, of course, as then the moon moves across the sun, and she gives them all glasses so that they can watch the second half, no longer skeptical. And this is just like a story that so many of us lived as organizers with the skeptics around us about why this was such value. And so it was a real pleasure to be involved in this. And then this is all over. They've got they actually used it as a fundraiser for animal shelters. So
nice.
The purchase went to helping animals but they were written up. Jamie wrote about them too, because there was a lot of art created around this that then is permanent. So that's one of the things I love, people making things permanent and just creating these anchors to really keep that experience alive for everybody. So that's one of my favorite stories. Jamie, what about you?
There's so many to choose from. I quite like the one from Erie County in Pennsylvania, where they, like a lot of communities, they were warned by people who have no idea what they're talking about, maybe, that they would be swarmed by people and there would be litter everywhere. And I think they closed one of their state parks just in case they got overrun. And afterwards, they had the opposite experience. Everywhere was left clean, because Eclipse people are quite nice people, right? They came in, they watched the eclipse, they spent money, and they cleared up after them, and they left. And they started asking, the people in tourism in Erie were asking if we could get more geeks in, more geek tourism, because it's so easy to do. And of course, after that, we had the Northern Lights across the world, including in that area.
Oh.
I know you definitely had that, Deb, in Rochester.
Yeah.
So just after the eclipse, there was that huge kind of secondary wave of interest in astrotourism. So yeah, just had a really happy ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, we had a May big. So after April, we had one in May. Yeah. We had a Northern Lights big geomagnetic storm in May. And Dan and I, so Dan Schneiderman was my co-chair of the Rochester Task Force, and he works for the Rochester Museum and Science Center. We went up to the shore of Lake Ontario, because that's where Rochester is located. And we went to a place called Webster Park. Now, whenever there had been like word of that there might be Northern Lights, you'd always get some people out there in the dark. But when Dan and I got there were thousands of people crowding the shore for the Northern Lights that we know would not have been there but for our 7 years of effort to get the word out here in Rochester. And in fact, like the most gratifying thing happened. We're sitting there and everybody's oohing and ahhing because it was incredible. And then a guy behind us said, first the eclipse and now this. And Dan and I just, you don't know who you said that to. They were right behind us. Oh, that was another sort of gift from the universe, that it just made us feel great. It just validated that this was a permanent thing for Rochester. We had intended to do that, to get people aware of and excited and hooked in to what the universe is about. And we got that payoff. Like it meant all that free work. Really, it just was such a payoff.
That's awesome.
It lasted a while. It lasted beyond that. We had more Northern Lights in, was it October last year? I think it was
October.
Well, 2025, I think, earlier this year, I think in that May, that was actually like solar maximum. Because it was coming up on the 11-year cycle going to the 2024 eclipse. And the 2023 one we saw in Australia was also on that upswing. And that one was just amazing.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So yes, because that eclipse was so short that we had all kinds of incredible phenomena that you don't get in long duration eclipses. So we got all kinds of chromosphere and just incredible solar max, but we might be dialing it down.
We should have another year, I think, of very bright northern lights coming through because we're now in the downswing of that solar max.
But we had a lot of interest in the eclipse followed by the northern lights. The timing was so fantastic.
It was.
If you remember, Chris, we were in Easter Island, weren't we? We bumped into each other in Easter Island as well in October.
Yes, Easter Island, October 24.
You remember there was a comet around? I was getting up at 3 a.m. to try to find the comet, and maybe failing. But the week after, the 2 or 3 weeks after, that comet got brighter and was visible in the northern hemisphere. So I was writing. Yeah, I could see it from Wales, so everyone in North America could definitely see it. So I was writing articles on Forbes, a website known for financial news, and we got untold millions of hits on my articles about the comet, which I predicted it for the eclipse. I knew they'd be popular, but for a comet, I didn't think that would be popular at all. But yeah, there was definitely a lag factor from the eclipse, which I hope is still there. There's some comets coming around now, so we'll find out soon, I think. But
one of the things about understanding science, especially as leveraged by these lovely, spectacular natural phenomena, these are just facts. They're not influenceable by humans. And I think that a lot of us, we're just so dispiriting to look around at the news, that science news that you can understand and that is meaningful to you. I think that there's just that much more of an appetite for it because of this contrast, because it's eternal and objective and happens no matter what you think about it. It's that there's that, I can't remember who said the whole science doesn't care what you feel about it. It just is. And it's a comforting thing. And also the idea, I think more people have this than ever, that it's not beyond their understanding or not beyond human. If somebody understands this, so can I. And I think that's partly what all of the eclipse education does. Eclipses, of course, are fairly straightforward. They're not so much, you don't have a lot of complicated chemistry or physics to understand about it. But the sense that regular people can understand things, I think is, for those of us who aren't nerds, that's not necessarily a familiar thing. But I think it is a hugely valuable aspect of eclipse being us helping put eclipses in the lens for people because they can understand it and it's gratifying and that helps them see themselves as people who understand.
I love that. And the thing is too, is that we are trying to help them get into astronomy, like you said, the Northern Lights. And the one thing that I went to the Observio, I'm going to not pronounce it right, Havalambre area. And I actually went to one of their night sky events. And I realized I hadn't seen the Milky Way in over a decade.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And it was just so beautiful, just the whole sea of stars right there in the sky. Yeah. And they had telescopes set out, and he was the gentleman doing it, which I'm going to invite on the podcast, was just so passionate about astronomy and just being able to share that. But we don't have dark skies like we used to when we were younger. And if you can, I highly encourage you to get to some dark skies and just see the Milky Way. It's there all the time on a beautiful, clear night. And you look at the Milky Way, it's amazing. And I'm actually having dreams of retiring to that area so I can see the Milky Way every night.
And which area is it? I missed it.
It's near Terrell. It's on Pico. I'm pronouncing this all wrong. God, I can't even, I'm trying to find, Havalambre is the area.
Okay.
It's a mountainous region. It's a mountainous region in Spain, and they have some of the second darkest skies in the world.
Oh, nice. Wow. That sounds wonderful.
Surely you have dark skies in Western Texas.
We do, and we go out there sometimes, but it's a long drive. It's a shorter flight to Spain.
I see.
That's true.
Yeah.
They rent space on a concrete slab, and they built piers upon these concrete slabs, and they have roofs on industrial buildings that roll over on top of them to protect them from the weather, and then they roll out at night, and you're controlling your astrophotography rig from any place on Earth. So these guys are pretty good. I'm not promoting them. I don't know them in any way. It's just one of the cooler establishments, and they're growing, and they've got plenty of space and plenty of dark skies. And so it's just nice to get your rig and know how, get your gear working.
Well, Davis,
it's important that Spanish eclipse next year. It takes place on the peak night of the Perseid meteor shower. But I won't be able to see that probably from Greenland because it won't really get properly dark. But so I'll probably miss out on that. But in Spain, it's perfect. If you're in a dark sky area, you can just stay put, watch the eclipse, stay put, and watch the 100 shooting stars an hour later that night.
Yeah, actually, there's a couple of spots that I talked to some of the local astronomers, and that's what they're planning. They have a spot where they think they're going to see the eclipse, although the cloud came just right at totality time when I was trying to video it. But he said the plan is just to watch it and then turn around and watch the meteor shower right behind you.
And of course, you have the Milky Way as well, which, as you said, is one of the wonders of the world. So, it could be an amazing eclipse for the astronomy community, for sure.
It should be.
And everyone who can get there.
Because it is coming through, like missing, the eclipse is missing Madrid and missing Barcelona, and coming through what my tour guide said was the donut of Spain. Because all of the population is on the edge of Spain. Not a lot of people live through the center of it. It's all farming communities, small farming communities throughout that area. The surprising thing is, though, that all these communities are built up to 2 or 3 stories high. So you actually have to go outside the community to the edge to see a sunset.
Yeah.
And this is a sunset. By the time it gets to Spain, it's a sunset eclipse.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that the eclipse misses Barcelona and Madrid, because all of those people will travel into the path, which will complicate things somewhat.
The good news is, it's the train system. Hopefully they'll add a few more train cars, because they have a wonderful train system. Spain has a wonderful train system.
They do have a good train system, and you can do this eclipse on public transport if you want, but they are very slow, and there's not many of them. So it's not the best. It's not like Japanese bullet trains or something.
No, it's not. And you probably want to buy your tickets in advance if you're trying to get in, because I went from Barcelona to Saragossa, which is in the path. And then I took another trip from Valencia back to Barcelona, which that whole train, a lot piece of that train is in the path. So if you could easily take the train from Barcelona or Valencia and hop off in one of those little towns and hopefully see it. But you would have to get outside of the town to see the sunset.
I tried to write about trains in the 24 eclipse. I got in touch with, is it Amtrak? And I was talking to them about various trips you could do through the path, even from going through Texas as well. Yeah. And then someone said to me, no one uses the train in America. This is just purely for tourists.
There were several flights. There were, like the 2017 eclipse, there were several flights that specifically went up for the eclipse.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of them going up for Greenland.
Oh, really?
And Iceland. Yeah, there's quite a few. There's a few planes going up for that too.
That makes sense, because you could be above the clouds guaranteed.
I've not seen an eclipse from a plane. I don't really want to. I could have gone to see one in a plane. 2019 in Chile, there was the celestial positioning was such that you could watch a 9.5 minute eclipse from a Dreamliner over the Pacific, near taking off from Santiago. Which was really tempting because it was only 2 minutes on the ground, but you just had to get off offshore. But I couldn't go on that. unfortunately. And that's never going to happen again in my lifetime, so I'm not going to bother. But to see one from a plane, I'm not sure if I need to do that.
So an airplane is an actual decent way to do it. There's scratchy windows, but if you have threat of clouds, it's a good way to do it.
Spain's actually a good chance to do that, but I don't know of anyone who's actually going to do that.
I'm going to do it from Spain. The 2 flights I did, one was the 2003 one over Antarctica, and that was a great flight. I have this beautiful picture that I took with a point and shoot of just the eclipse in the sky, the shadow on the ice, and then you can see beyond you can see the actual edge of the shadow.
Wow.
Nice.
So I have that one. And then, I do recommend it. And then I did the 2015, I think the 2015, which went over the North Atlantic. So it was almost a guaranteed cloud out. So we did that one as a flight.
Yeah, well, I watched that from the Faroe Islands. I watched that with a horse and some rabbits. Because we were doing an experiment on how eclipses affected animals. They barely noticed. They did nothing.
It was cloudy.
So there's a book out there by Dr. Gordon Telepin on Eclipse Day where he did study chickens and their behaviors during totality. Pretty cool stuff. And he also has all kinds of descriptions of the different types of phenomena in that book.
I'm hoping to actually, I'm good at media. So I was on the day of the 2024 eclipse, I was on video all over the world broadcasting for different places. And I would love to be part of the English speaking media for the few days in advance there, just helping out. I'm very bad at just passively experiencing something. Like if I perceive something that could be done to help, I just can't. I leap behind the table and help just because I can't help it. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And so I have a little time to coordinate that.
Good.
In Iceland.
So you'll be hanging out with Savik a bit.
I'm hoping so, because he's going to have his hands full. When you and I were talking with hearing, I thought to myself, he could use somebody. So that's, I just got to figure out how to make that happen.
He's got the same problem a lot of people, a lot of communities have. And definitely Deb and Rochester had this last time, which was the threat of cloud. Everyone fixates on cloud. You know this from we're all in the same Facebook communities online. And every time he mentions anywhere that there's going to be an eclipse in Iceland, someone says, no, cloud. And they just shut him down constantly. And it's ridiculous because he knows, he lives there. He knows how cloudy Iceland is. And that's not remotely interesting to him. And yet the rest of the world, and he's talking to eclipse chasers here who are a fussy lot, right? Quite judgmental. And we are all part of that community, but we know sometimes we're a bit we judge people on their weather, not...
Actually, so we knew here in Rochester that we had a 51% chance of sun only on 8th. And so despite being like the place that was like the most prepared, we in fact did get clouded out. And people who came here for all the experiences that we were offering the weekend before, that morning just went either west to chase the sun. We, of course, who had been preparing, stay and do that. But we had prepared the community very deliberately for what the experience is like of an eclipse in clouds. So like Dan and I, especially whenever we were on TV or on radio or in front of a crowd, here's what a sunny day eclipse is like and what to expect. And here's what a cloudy day eclipse is like and what to expect. And we were comforted in the immediate aftermath by people coming up to us just randomly and wherever we happened to be, people who didn't know us saying, and then describing their eclipse experience using the same words we'd been using about to help them prepare. That was really, really useful. But then just yesterday, I was giving based on the book to a group of Rochester social workers who were just a different community, a domestic violence community, talking about the eclipse and leadership and all the concepts in the book and how they apply to all kinds of communities. Afterwards, somebody came up to me and said, "Until you reminded me, I forgot that there were clouds. All I remember was how amazing it was. Just completely, like the clouds just were not on her radar." And that felt so good. This is 18 months post-eclipse. And what she had just taken away was the awe of the we've got to remember that for regular people, that a cloudy day eclipse is an incredible, awesome thing. We told everybody it will be pitch dark. hold the hand of the person you love right then, because you won't find them in the dark. You need to be connected and bond them, embrace the, and so that's that, largely was success, not universal. Was successful, but largely successful. So us crazy people, us crazy eclipse people were right. And we keep being validated that. And so there'll be this is like a pitch, but the book comes out on December 9th. It is the perfect holiday gift for both if you're in the eclipse chasing community, but if there are people in your life who don't understand what it is that you're doing and why, it's a perfect holiday gift for them. So just hand them this book. It's gorgeous. It's got Tyler Nordgren's artwork on the cover, and they will thank you.
And I'll take 20 copies, please.
You can up your order. You can get a discount, Chris, at that bulk. You can get a volume discount.
I love that.
No question. Wholesale Press would be happy to sell those to you.
I love that because there's so many other things I do, not eclipse related. I have a yoga community, I have a Toastmasters community, I have a cycling community, and there's so much more I know I can do. And I'm hoping I'm going to use this book to inspire me to reach out more and create more of those moments in other communities that I support.
Thank you. It will help, and you'll love reading about all friends too. That's the thing. This is a small, you'll get some back too. Part of the effect now, if those in the Eclipse organizing community know Trish Ertzfeld from Perryville, Missouri, because she was in the path of totality in 2017 and in 2024, and she's in this tiny little town, but she leveraged that momentum and made the most of it for both eclipses. But then, early this year in January, there was a startling freeze where it was you don't typically get this level of ice storm there. But her eclipse community mobilized, and they the people the networks that had been created as a result of this eclipse. This is the Eclipse Effect, right in action. Instantly snapped into action, knowing who to talk to, because the community fabric had been woven so deliberately and carefully. And then literally 2 months later in March, there were devastating tornadoes. And again, the eclipse community knew what to do because they had already been sort of had this identity and knew the people. So it's a real effect, and it's really valuable.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful.
That is beautiful and annoying because that's not in the book.
Yes, it is. We actually, Jamie, we slid it right in at the last minute in the legacy chapter. Yeah, because actually the story came to us after we had submitted the book, but before final edits were done. I slid it right in. Isn't that good?
Awesome. That's awesome. We're looking forward to reading it.
Thanks. You.
And I think we should close with that story because that was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Fantastic chat with you guys. I can't wait to cross paths with you. Just to confirm, the Jenny C's do take their glasses off during totality, correct?
Oh yeah, that was part of the thing. So if you notice, no glasses during totality. So she totally said, come back out to see Ring of Light. Look now you can before it gets
scientific rigor throughout.
She sure did.
That's good. That's good.
Yep. Right. I need these safe glasses until it gets dark.
Yeah. There you go.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Teaching safety as well. Yep.
Yes, it did. Great. It's great. Thank you for all the work you do with your communities, and Jamie for putting the word out there across the world, and you, Debra, for all the work you do with your communities and everything. And like you said, and thank Kate for inspiring all of us.
Yeah, and thanks to both of you as well.
Indeed.
Oh,
yep. Right? This work seems brief, but it's actually permanent. So thank you for all the work you guys do.
Well, thank you both. You are amazing. We Eclipse Chasers always end up kind of in the same spots and crossing paths. So maybe we'll cross paths.
Yeah, I like cross paths.
I'll see you in Greenland now, probably.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm going to Greenland? Well, that's it for this episode of Totality Talks. Hope you enjoyed our chat with Jamie and Debra. If you like what you hear and now see, please click the like button and subscribe to the podcast. We'll see you in a month or so as we start to gear up for the August the 12th, 2026 event. As always, clear skies.